Welcome to today's Explainer. Today, we're diving into the somewhat hidden art of second-order thinking. Have you ever noticed how the absolute most intuitive, immediate solutions to our problems, well, sometimes they just end up making things way, way worse? Think about it. If revenue is down, we cut costs. If a project is falling behind, we just throw more people at it. Sure, these quick fixes give us that immediate rush of relief, but they almost always mask a much deeper, systemic reality. So, today we're going to help you completely shift your mindset away from that reactive, short-term firefighting and move towards proactive, strategic foresight. Stick with me, because by the end of this, you are going to have the exact mental frameworks to spot those invisible consequences that most decision-makers completely miss.
All right, let's run through our mental roadmap for today. We'll be hitting 5 key areas. First, the first-order trap. Second, asking and then what? Third, the temporal cascade. Fourth, cobras and misaligned incentives. And fifth, tools for strategic foresight.
Okay, Section 1, the first-order trap. We're kicking things off by looking at why trusting your gut too quickly can lead to absolute disaster down the road.
I really want you to hold this question in the back of your mind throughout this entire explainer. Seriously, write it down if you have to. Is your solution creating tomorrow's problem? Because honestly, this is the fundamental trap we all fall into. We get so insanely caught up in putting out the fire right in front of us that we accidentally ignite a powder keg right behind us.
First-order thinking is super straightforward, right? You take an action, you get a result. It's immediate, it's visible, and it's exactly what you intended to happen. But here's the thing. The market already prices in the obvious. Real, differentiated insight lives exactly one level deeper than that. Second-order thinking forces you to look at the delayed, the counterintuitive, and the completely unintended ripples of what you just did. It's literally the difference between playing checkers and playing chess.
And that brings us to the real paradox of making progress. True strategic leadership often means you literally have to endure some first-order pain to unlock that sweet second-order gain. It's about bridging the gap between who pays the cost and who gets the benefit. For instance, think about giving radical, honest feedback. In the short term, total discomfort. That's your first-order pain. But long-term, it builds compounding growth and deep trust, which is your second-order gain. Now flip it. Bailing out a failing project feels amazing today because you get to avoid conflict. But guess what? It creates massive systemic fragility down the line. Second-order thinking is super rare because of this exact gap. Often, the manager who gets a promotion for a quick fix today isn't even around to clean up the mess 2 years later.
Section 2. Asking and then what? Let's see how a deceptively simple little question can actually become your ultimate strategic weapon.
Listen, if you take absolutely nothing else away from us today, just remember to slow down long enough to repeatedly ask yourself this one golden question. And then what? That's it. It is the absolute core discipline of playing the tape forward to trace the chain of consequences before you make a move. Let's look at how this plays out in the real world with the hyper-growth discounting trap. Imagine you implement a massive 50% site-wide discount just to hit your quarterly targets. First-order effect? Amazing. You get an immediate spike in sales and a ton of new customers. Your boss is probably thrilled. But ask, and then what? Well, the second-order effect is margin compression. And even worse, your customers are now totally anchored to that cheaper price, so they'll probably never pay full price again. Ask, and then what? Just one more time. The third-order effect? Your competitors retaliate. Now you've triggered a permanent price war that only attracts bargain hunters who churn immediately. So a strategy that looked like pure genius in step 1 literally triggers a self-amplifying death spiral by step 3. But wait, there is a catch here. While tracing these consequences is totally vital, you also have to know when to stop. Experts highly recommend capping your systemic analysis at 3 layers. Why the number 3? Well, if you keep asking and then what into the 4th, 5th, and 6th orders, you fall into the trap of infinite regress. You basically just get analysis paralysis. Beyond 3 layers, you're not even strategizing anymore, you're just generating speculative noise based on variables you have zero control over.
Section 3, the temporal cascade. Now we need to talk about the massive variable that loves to mask the true cost of our actions: time.
Consequences are rarely static. Actually, their value often flips entirely as time passes. Using the 10-10-10 framework, we can evaluate a decision's impact across 10 minutes, 10 months, and 10 years. Take a common corporate move, cutting research and development to boost this year's earnings. In 10 minutes, the balance sheet looks brilliant. Leadership gets a pat on the back for fiscal discipline. In 10 months, the product pipeline starts thinning out. But hey, the existing products are still carrying the weight. But in 10 years, the entire enterprise is hollowed out. Your competitors have completely leapfrogged you, and you've lost all the institutional knowledge needed to catch up. Time creates this sneaky latency period that often makes us completely forget the original cause by the time the bill finally comes due.
Section 4. Cobras and misaligned incentives. Time isn't our only hurdle. Let's dive into how rational human behavior and totally misaligned incentives can derail everything.
Have you ever heard of the Cobra effect? This historical anecdote just perfectly captures the danger of ignoring human nature. Back during British rule in India, the government wanted to reduce the venomous cobra population in Delhi. So they offered a cash bounty for every dead cobra. The first-order result? Lots of dead snakes. Success, right? Wrong. The second-order reality was that enterprising locals realized they could make a decent living by actively breeding cobras just to kill them and collect the cash. When the government finally caught on to the scam and canceled the bounty, the breeders just released all their now worthless snakes into the city, which made the cobra problem worse than ever. This literally happens anytime we introduce a solution without anticipating how rational people are going to game the new rules for their own profit.
And that whole snake debacle leads us perfectly to Goodhart's law, which states, when a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure. Think about it. If you measure a call center's performance strictly by how fast they get off the phone, well, they're just going to start hanging up on angry customers. You've hit your metric, sure, but you've completely destroyed your business. This is exactly why, whenever you introduce a new rule or incentive, you absolutely must ask, who is going to benefit from this in ways I never intended?
To protect yourself from these wild, misaligned incentives, you really need to lean on a beautiful mental model known as Chesterton's fence. Picture yourself walking through a field and finding a random fence blocking your path. The first-order thinker looks at it and says, "This isn't my way, it serves zero purpose, let's tear it down." But the second-order thinker, they say, "Hold on. Before I tear this down, I need to figure out exactly why someone went through all the effort to build it in the first place." Before you go optimizing a system just to save some overhead, respect Chesterton's fence, because if you don't understand the hidden purpose behind an inefficiency, removing it might just shift a massive burden over to another department and crash your whole system.
Section 5. Tools for strategic foresight. All right, we've exposed the traps, the time cascades, and the incentive issues. Now it's time to equip you with the masterclass tools for anticipating these complex realities.
So, moving up the strategic ladder really requires a fundamental shift in how you view time and direction. First-order thinking is super short-term and direct. You're just looking at immediate outcomes. Second-order thinking stretches that horizon out to the medium term and projects forward to catch indirect consequences. But the real game changer is inversion. Instead of projecting forward to find success, inversion uses reverse logic to actively avoid failure in the short to medium term. It is honestly one of the absolute most powerful tools you can have in your strategic arsenal.
A really brilliant way to apply this inversion model is by running a pre-mortem. So instead of asking what could go right, you gather your team and ask what could go wrong if this works perfectly. It's a simple 3-step process. Step 1. Assume catastrophe. Fast forward 1 year and pretend the project has failed spectacularly. Step 2. Identify the failure modes. You've got to force your team's ego entirely out of the room here. List every single second-order risk that could have caused the crash. Like, did your shiny new feature just act as a roadmap for a competitor to crush you? Then step 3. Assign probabilities. Give a rough likelihood to each failure branch so you're not treating all risks equally.
Because when you actually map those probabilities out, you might uncover something kind of terrifying. You might realize there's, say, a massive 30% chance of a success-induced failure. Imagine your new marketing campaign goes incredibly viral, works exactly as planned, but it completely overwhelms your servers and breaks your supply chain. Identifying that during a pre-mortem means you get to build the mitigation infrastructure today, rather than panicking tomorrow when you should be celebrating.
So, how do we make all of this a habit? Because, let's face it, our human brains are hopelessly hardwired for hindsight bias. You know, that incredibly annoying tendency to say, "Oh, I knew it all along," right after things go wrong? Because of that, you literally cannot rely on your memory to improve your judgment. You need to keep a decision journal. Log the choice you made, log your assumptions, and crucially, project your expected first and second order effects with specific timestamps. Say something like, in exactly 6 months, I predict X is going to happen. Reviewing these logs every 6 to 12 months is honestly the only reliable way to calibrate your intuition, spot your persistent blind spots, and build this vital cognitive muscle over time. And that brings us full circle. I'm going to leave you with this final, critical thought to challenge your very next obvious move. Before you sign off on that quick fix, and before you pop the champagne for that immediate win, ask yourself, Is the solution you're considering today actually creating the exact problem you'll be fighting tomorrow? Slow down. Ask, and then what? Because mastering second-order thinking is not just about avoiding a disaster, it is your ultimate key to unlocking sustainable, long-term success. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will see you on the next one.